Okay, this is gonna be the first in my tutorial session on how I come up with my tabletop role-playing worlds. This is the process that I use. Right now I'm building a Pathfinder campaign, and this is part of the process is generating the story and the magic that goes on behind the scenes to give the characters some content that is interesting and fun for them to play. Now, uh, to let you know, I can be creative when it comes to storyline and some of the more fun aspects of the game, of generating the content. But one of the things that I'm not the best at, or I need a little help at, I should say, with is um, coming up with that initial spark of that creativity, and then I'm able to build upon that. So this here is the Roll for Fantasy site, and this site has a lot of tools for generating good original content, and allowing you to help you out for that original content, and then you can modify and tweak it to work with your for your own purposes. And this is one of the main tools I use for generating my world maps. I don't use it for everything, just to get inspiration for it. So one of the things it allows you to do is set the size of the world that you want, and then you can use some basic tools to populate that world. I really like the layout and the look of this. It kind of has a good feeling for what I like to do. So the first thing that I do is I set my size on how big the grid or the world should be according to the grid. So I'm gonna go ahead and set this at 20 by 20, and and then you see it readjust to the size that I said after I clicked apply, and then I'm going to hit random map, and then that generated the first random map. Um, Now this has some different land masses, and this looks like a collection of islands, which may not be exactly what I'm looking for, so I'm going to hit random map a few times here until I find one that I like. And I kind of like the fact that this has one landmass, but it's still not exactly what I'm looking for. Um, and basically, all this tool does is it takes the tiles up at the top and then inserts it at different points based upon an algorithm. And this is mostly one big landmass, and I might normally try to find something a little bit that fit my needs a little better than this. But as an example, I think that this will work. I'm not going to mess with too much of this, but I am going to take a little bit here to kind of remove this little inlet here, and I'm going to try to find some pieces that I can use to change the coast here. So first thing I'm looking for is kind of in the top coast, and I'm just looking for something that'll fit across. So I'm actually looking for something that'll fit here in this, and you select your corner and then you select the tile, and I think that'll kind of work. It kind of goes around that edge there, and it's got this little island out here, so okay. And then now let's go to the sides and try to find a piece. Oh, so I accidentally clicked on the tile before deselecting the previous tile. So, and I do that regularly. I'll probably do that a bunch throughout this tutorial, but let's go ahead and fix that and click one of these other ones. And go back to the one that I had previously. Which one was that? Um, I Okay, so now we've got that set. Now we uncheck that one, check the other box, and now we're looking back at sides, and we want to put that one in place. Okay, that one will work. And now we want another, this will be an inward corner again, and one that'll fit to match up with these tiles that I already have placed. Alright, so now we've modified this, so we've got the northern coast kind of done, and now for these middle ones, I'm just gonna make it straight, normal, empty land across here. Just to make that part simpler. And now I'll modify this one down here. And again, it'll be a side, and it's just gonna go straight across. And I just have to find one that'll match up with the points on the outside to make it work well. And so let's that one. That one looks all right. Oh, I accidentally left the previous ones checked. I can fix that in a second. Um, and that one looks like it has like this little delta inlet or something like that. So let's go ahead and let's find another side that'll match that. And let's see. That should be actually bottom left because we have this little piece below it. Um, and oh, yeah. Okay, so uh, there we go. Okay, that would work. And I'm not perfect with this tool. This doesn't take a ton of experience. You can just get in here and start playing around with it and see what happens. All right. So I filled in that little gap, and that section looks pretty good. And what we've turned into what was like an inward like inlet, and we've turned it into an area with like a lake. Okay, so at this point in the process, I start trying to think of ways that I can utilize the map and try to find things to do with it. So what I might do is look at the layout and see that there's a section that I might want a bastion between the two inlets down there in the eastern and southwestern, or I'm sorry, the western and the southeastern sides there. Um, a fortress maybe that protects the southwestern section of this continent from the wilds in the north. And then I might look at a place that looks interesting, like over the little peninsula in the southeast there, and that might be a place for a very popular lighthouse or something like that. And uh, that's generally what I start to like to do. Uh, One of the main points that I can get across to you is every step of the process you want to think of why. Like, why would this thing be here or why wouldn't a thing be there? So if we put this bastion from these two across these two inlets, then we can decide later on what to do with that. Um, and I'm gonna go ahead and save the map. And with this tool, you can only save X number of times per your browser. It looks like 8. Um, and I'm just gonna save it as map 8. That way I can pull it back up if I lose it or make a mistake. And I don't want to overwrite any of my previous maps, so that'll be it. All right, and then after I generate the map, I see some issues in here. Um, but I can easily fix that in my image editor, so I'm going to leave it alone and go ahead and save it out. Um, and um, I'm not going to, again, try to come up with all of this stuff myself. I'm just I'm gonna use some of the utilities given so that I can generate some very basic stuff. And I'm actually going to use this utility to come up with the name of this island. It's just a quick, easy tool that I can use to to generate some random names so that I can come up with the name for my continent. And, uh, and that will be, um, I can't seem to find it at this location. Um, let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay, so it's the same general group it looks like that it came from, but the it looks like they have a different URL here, it's actually a different site. So let's go ahead and find our city and towns names. I'm sorry, continent names, and then I'm gonna just go through the list and see if there's anything like. If not, then I'll hit the get continent names and just keep rotating through. Um, all right, Tertius. That sounds like something I could use. So that'll work for now. All right, and I'm just gonna use that as my save for the image file, and then I do all of my image editing using the tool Paint.net. I think it's a great application for the purposes of editing and making image files. I think this one works pretty good. You can use whatever one you like if this isn't one that you prefer. Um, GIMP is another great one, and it's not going to make a huge difference in the case of what I'm trying to do. I'm doing some pretty simple stuff, but then I'm going to go ahead and open the image, um, and there are some problem areas like I had mentioned, but we're going to just go ahead and copy those out and cover those up. And to do that, we're just going to use the selection tool if I can find it. And I'm going to select some of the general landmass stuff here. Okay, so I can't seem to find the select or my tools menu here. Oh, they're up there on the right. Okay, let's turn it off, turn it back. Oh, there I see it. Okay, it's on my other desktop still. And I'm just gonna put it on in there, and then I'm gonna take a selection of the landmass and just paste it and cover up these little sections. The coloring on these maps are pretty consistent, so I don't have to worry about color matching being a problem. And then I'm just going to come in, and I have to zoom in so that I don't take up too much area so that I can get this without covering up any of the water. And cover this one. And then I'm going to zoom out and just kind of see what it looks like. And it looks like I accidentally left a little bit there, so let's go ahead and cover that up. Okay. And that looks better. We fixed the problems. So now we can start um, filling in the map. Now, one of the things that this map generator has is it has some tiles that you can see up here that has some like ridges and hills and grass and things like that can be filled in for this map. I've already utilized some of the tools to just export some of these items out, and I'm going to just reuse the items I pulled out. I've already exported all this out into a different image, and I just use these so that I have the consistency of colors and the map has that feel that I'm trying to accomplish with the look for my map. So I'm going to open up my one of my more previous maps, and I'm going to pull out the image layer where I've done some image editing for it. And this is the previous map. So here I'm just gonna change out the layers so that I can see the parts that I've already done, and I'm gonna copy those layers into this map. And if you see, the color kind of matches, and we've got a series of, this is the original export of the basic items, and then I've also got these other layers of modified versions of each of these items that I had. And then as I bring these into the map, I'm going to just place them. Oops, I accidentally put that on the same layer. Alright, new layer. And there's probably some functionality in Paint.net to allow me to just copy from one layer to the next, um, while without having to manually place it. But I'm just gonna, it's not a big deal. And if you notice, this map is actually bigger than the other map that I was working with here, but that's not gonna affect us much. It's just I'm only gonna actually design a, a portion of this map just to give you guys an idea of what I do. And I'm just gonna try to make a separate layer for each of these items so that I don't have to worry about them overlapping each other or anything like that. Um, and there we go. I think that that's all of the items. All right. Um, and I think that I'm gonna go ahead and then take and it's something I hadn't done in my previous trial, but I'm gonna go ahead and merge all of these layers together. Um, and I moved this one up to the front so when I can turn it off and I can see all the items behind it. And I'm just gonna take this section here, and I'm gonna make a layer underneath all of them. And then I'm going to take that color and I'm just gonna uh, cover that whole uh, original, the bottom layer. So then if I turn off my background, I can see what these tools are going to look like when I place them on my map. Alright, so um, now I've got this map and I'm going to place all these items in ways that are spread out, because what I actually want to do here is I'm actually going to merge all of these down um, into one layer. Okay, there's some trees, and there's my old mountains that I cut. All right, and the rivers and water sources. And then this is just the original group of items that I started with. None of those have been edited to add transparency behind them. And then I'm going to merge all these together so that now that I've spread them out, so that I have all of my palette in one place. And so this is kind of my palette. Now, as you can see that I've added transparency to a lot of this, except for the original utilities. And because, like I said, the background color of these items um, match consistently, so I don't have to worry too much about color matching when I place it in, as long as I don't overwrite or cover up something that's already has a different image on it, and they should match up pretty good. And now I'm just going to move these grass pieces that I've created off down here with the rest of the grass pieces out of the middle. And I want to leave a little bit of working spaces in the middle here so that I can work with these if I need to. Um, so now what I tend to do is I don't need a lot of information to imagine what these areas are, so I just use some basic iconography just to make it obvious what is trying to be implied with my map. So I was talking about that bastion up down that's gonna like protect from the evil forces. So this is the icon that I like to use for that, and it's a couple of guard towers with a great a portcullis in the middle there, and it looks like it's pretty stocky fortress kind of look. So I'm going to copy that and paste it onto this layer, and it didn't copy off. Oh, I pasted onto the wrong layer there. So there we go. Okay, and So I pasted it onto the background layer. So it's actually got some transparency around it, and I don't want to do that, so I need to create a new layer here and paste it in front of the background layer so that I don't have to worry about that too much. And now I said it's going to be like a bastion, so if I put it out here in the middle of this kind of area, it works like it's going to separate um, this southwest area from the wildlands, and then I like the idea that maybe this is disconnected and protected maybe by some kind of a mountain or mountain range to help protect that area. So we're gonna look for a piece that matches. And I like to keep my layers named understandably so that I don't have to worry about. I know what I'm looking at whenever I do it, and I don't have to guess what layer is what. So I like to give them good names. Alright, so I'm going to paste that in here and turn on the point of interest. And oh, the right side of these mountains it doesn't isn't cut, and this is not the range that I was actually looking for. So I'm gonna have to go back here and oh the okay, now I can see. All right, it was this one down here. So I'm gonna use this, and I'm going to so this is the one that has the proper transparency, and I'm just gonna place this over here by this fortress, and I'm actually gonna try to actually place it behind, and I think I can put this behind the fortress a little bit, and I think I'm gonna make it all the way across this area pretty much. So I have to do a new layer for each place that I'm pasting, and then I just try to match up so that these look visually. It doesn't have to be perfect, but as long as it doesn't visually stand out and really throw off your eye when you're looking at it from the player's perspective, it's just got to give them an idea of what I'm trying to accomplish with this map and how this area looks and what it looks unique like. And again, I always try to come up with why. Um, and so if if you can answer the question why and each for everything that you do here, you know that the players aren't gonna. It's not gonna take them out of the game. It'll feel real to them if if there's a reason why they're doing a thing, and the why the NPCs are doing something. Um, I would normally actually do this a little bit better than this, but as far as the why, it's like it just makes the world more realistic. And what I normally do is I would probably make this a little bit more random and less just a straight line across there. But oh, this point of interest is not cut out, so I'm gonna go back here and see if I've got one that's cut out first. Um, and I do not have one that's cut out that much any better anyway. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this out in place. The easiest step to take for this is to use the magic selection tool and make sure it's set to layer and the flood mode's turned off, or just uh, to uh, to not global basically, and then you adjust the tolerance here to make it so that you're just getting the outside of the fortress. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And then you just delete it, and it kind of looks like it's sitting in front of those mountain ranges. Um, and I don't really like the look of where that's at, so we move it down a little bit. And it's got a little bit of color still out the outside of it, so I'll clean that up. And to do that, I'm going to turn off all the layers other than this. There isn't a feature built in here to solo a layer or turn off all the layers except for the one you're on, or even turn off multiple layers at the same time. But I selected that. Now I'm just gonna delete it, and now it looks pretty clean. I don't see any other things with it. And now we've got a mountain range, and we've got our bastion. And I'm gonna put a little bit of water coming from the mountains off to the ocean on the west side here. So I'm gonna look for a river, and I'm just gonna throw some of these pieces that I want onto a new layer to play with. And these are ones again uh, I've cut a number of these things out already, and I'm just gonna use some of these. And then there's some common ones that I use. Like we got the straight squiggly one, we got the little bend in the river, and the little Y shape. Um, these are ones that I'm just gonna actually take them all here. Okay. Um, that way I can pick which one I want while I'm doing these different things up here. All right. And add another layer here and paste it in. And we'll call this rivers. And then I'm gonna move. And then I have a few pieces that I can use to piece together. Now I'm gonna try to use this little fork one, and that should represent the water coming out of the mountain. Let's see what we can do with that. I think I'm gonna actually shrink this down a little bit. Um, let's see. And we're gonna put it right in these river or in these hills here. I think I made it too small. Let's go ahead and that actually looks pretty close the way it is. And you can add any level of detail that you want to make it match the visual imagery that you're trying to accomplish. Um, I would normally actually edit the ends of these a little bit more to make it match these outs a little bit closer, but I think that you guys can kind of gather the idea of what I'm trying to accomplish with this and how you could utilize this for your own purposes later on. That one doesn't seem like it was fixed properly. I don't know why. When I pasted that in, it didn't seem like it was. Um, it went in right. Oh, I was putting it on the same layer. I forgot to make a new layer with it. Um, so that was just me being dumb, and so it was overriding. And then I don't like the way the junction is right there, so I'm gonna take it down a little bit, and I'm just gonna go ahead and cut a little bit off of the lighter parts of these, and then I'm just gonna move this back up, and hopefully that it'll match a little bit better color-wise. Oh yeah, that looks pretty seamless there, and it's headed out towards to the the ocean there. And I like these little fork things to make it look like it's kind of turning into a delta and leaving towards turning kind of on its way out to the ocean, like it's splitting up and hitting the ocean at different places. Maybe make it a you can turn it into a marshland or something like that. Obviously, I can't match it quite right there, but that looks like I might be able to match it up pretty good. Alright, so but with this I'm going to have to edit these images a little bit and cut off their tails. So let's cut off this tail here, just a rough cut, and then touch it up a little bit. And then you can copy some of this to just kind of make it look consistent to the ones around it. And place these little pieces and okay. Okay, that looks okay. Then grab a little background color and drag it down and cover up that last dark spot. Make sure it's on the right layer. There's a weird angle there. You can fix that. Um, I'm not gonna go through all these details. I just want to kind of show you a generic or a general idea of how to accomplish this and how I come up with the creativity again in generating the idea of this map. You won't have to use the same utilities that I'm using, of course. This is just what I do. So we've got that fortress. Now we need something to protect. So I'm using this like castle looking icon here to look like a city to represent a city on our map. And I like this little area actually down in the bottom left. So I'm gonna paste this. I just copied it to the wrong layer, or I didn't. I copied from the wrong layer. I gotta make sure that you select your layers properly when you copy and paste. Alright, now I've got it there. And like, if this is my only safe lands, then um, I like the main castles along the coast somewhere, and then that south west corner there is kind of looks like a good spot for it. And then, oops, I deleted the wrong one there. So I must have put that on a different layer. What layer did I put it on? Wait, it is on the background, and I gotta go back to before I did all that. Um, because I posted it on the background layer, but I didn't notice it because the it was on the wrong area there. So, like everybody, I make mistakes. All right, so let's go ahead and paste that again and move it to where we wanted it. All right, so now if that castle's there, or if that city's down there, and then there's gonna be probably a road between these two, and there's probably gonna be a town kind of in the middle, and a town in the northwest section of this, and maybe the southeast section of this, and then there's probably gonna be a town kind of between it, and um, and so let's go ahead and do a road here. Oh, no, let's go ahead and do the towns first. So for the towns, I use these little house icons. Okay, there we go. So for a bigger town, I use the 3 houses. For a really small village, I would use the 1. So let's go ahead and copy this up onto the main map. And put that up there, and it'll be like, I think of this like a fishing town. It has like the little water inlet there, and then kind of a town, a lookout kind of town maybe down there, and a road that would be on the crossroads of all of these in the middle. Now we're gonna draw these roads across these. So I'm gonna use the color picker, and I'm just gonna a lot of this uses the same dark color, so I'm just gonna grab one of the darker spots on this, just so that the roads that I draw are gonna match the styling of the map. And then I'm just gonna use the line tool and draw that between 2 places that I want to connect. And I know that whenever these roads grow up, before they start, they're probably going to start with um, by uh, using points of interest to kind of figure out where how they wanted to get to one place or another. So when they leave the castle, they might head towards that water, and then whenever they reach it, they know that they head towards the sunrise to get into the town. And that's because before this was a road, it would have just been a footpath that people had traveled, and then it would just build into a town. And then up in here, you probably would have had people walking initially straight to the center town, but eventually they would start merging with the road that was already existent, and it would have moved that point of convergence further towards it just to save time. And then and they would look maybe for that inlet of water there as kind of a point of interest. And then for the road up in this direction, they would um, probably head pretty close to straight there initially, but I have a feeling that maybe they would go through the fortress and then over to the city over there. Um, but down in the south where they would be going, maybe there's something that keeps them from going in that direction. But maybe they would head like out of their way towards the river in the bottom. And this is the kind of thing that brings us back to kind of a story point of why these things are. So let's add something here, and maybe I'll use this volcano here. I'm thinking maybe there's a plateau or something there, or it could be a volcano. I'm gonna use this volcano as the look. All right, so make sure I copy that off the right uh, layer and onto the right layer. And then I'm gonna take this volcano over here. Uh, there are some plateaus in the general, in the original tool that we use to generate these images, but I don't have any in my palette right now, so we're just gonna use our imagination and say that this is some plateaus out here. Did I put what layer did I put those roads on there? Okay, I put those in the mountains. So I'm gonna have to delete all those. It's the mountain layer, so there aren't any mountains in this area, so I can just select it and delete. Let's make a new layer. Oh, I guess I can just copy and paste, yeah. Alright, select it all, cut it out, move it down to the roads layer. And now let's get rid of this one. I don't like this one. Alright, and now let's go back to the line tool. And I'm actually thinking that they probably go north of the volcano, and if they're going to do that, they're probably going to go up towards the fortress too. So I'm going to draw the map to the fortress. And then they're probably going to head towards the volcano and use that as a point of interest, and then head north from there. And go around there. And then I want to keep the road in front of the point of interest so it doesn't get blocked by anything. And then I'm gonna place this. Okay, so now I put my point near the volcano, and then another point near this point of interest. So this lake would be the other point of interest, and now the idea is they walk from the fortress down towards the volcano. And we gotta merge this convergence together. Make sure it looks. I'm particular about this. So. And now we've got a basic version of the layout for what this map would accomplish. So we've got this fortress up here, and it's probably gonna be a trail that goes through these mountains here, like a mountain pass that's treacherous. And then during the summer, they would they could pass through this, and maybe that could be a story point that maybe this is the path's dangerous, and the adventurers would might come through this area, and that could be some conflict. And then um, I could add a little town on the far side of the mountains from the fortress, or over by this river, and say that maybe during the winter the garrison or the fortress has to send people up the northern, around the north western range of the mountains, and maybe there's a town that supports that. But I'm liking what we have here pretty simply. Um, this is again, just me coming up with stuff on the spot, just to give you guys again, like I keep saying, just to tell you guys what I do, and let you give you some ideas that maybe might help you come up with your own ideas to help get the creative juices flowing. Um, there are some other things I can throw in here, like I might throw a mage tower on here. I got a little icon that's for a mage tower. Um, and I don't see it here in my palette right now. Um, there's a ruined castle up there that I might use as a dungeon or a point of some piece for the thing, but I also have some hills and other items like that. And I would probably adjust this as I develop the story more. But let's go ahead and throw some trees in here so I can show you what I do with these. So this is the base groups of trees that I've used to generate some of the map. And then I just copied and paste that section to make this big section here. Um, and then I'm going to just take this big section and place it on a new layer. Let's go ahead and make sure I copied it from the right place. Alright. And then let's drag it onto this forest. And I'm just going to make a forest. And the way I generated these, it works the best if I start from the top and work my way down and to the left. Um, that cut it out. What did I do there? And for some reason it's catching the back. Oh, I know why. I'm putting it on the same layer again. Okay, I've got to stop doing that. Uh, Now let's go ahead and place this in over here and try to just line it up so it looks it looks a little bit continuous, and it's on the same layer again. And whenever you're doing this, you do go through a lot of layers generating these things. Alright, let's go ahead and place this. And we'll just keep placing these to try to fill in this gap. And alright. And these don't have to be perfect. It depends on how much detail you want to put into everything. Um, I don't worry too much about making mine perfect, because when you zoom out, they look pretty good. And uh, I don't want to burn myself out. And all I don't want to spend so much time on these that I burn myself out, and I don't have the time or the desire to generate the story elements that would benefit my campaign more than these being exactly perfect. All right. Want to go that way with it. So I kind of want to round off the top, and so I'm gonna go ahead and merge all these down to one layer so I can easily deal with it before dealing with any more. Let's rename it. And I actually left some trunks and I need to fix that probably, so I'm going to work my way back through here. Okay, that's not a good idea. Let's work across the top first. So to do that, let's go ahead and make a new layer. Okay, and let's, so I've got this little section that's kind of flat that I use to kind of flatten across the top. And now I'm just gonna put this in, wrong way, okay. Copy from the palette, paste it onto the right layer. You'll notice I'm doing some editing, but I'm trying not to edit out my mistakes per se. I want to kind of start rounding this off around the top right section of this. So let's go back to the palette, and I can either use a couple of these other ones to possibly round it off, but I think I'm just going to take the big section that I have and I'm going to reverse it and see what that looks like if I utilize just a reversed version of the same group of trees. So let's cut out this section and put it on the new layer and paste it in. And I flip it horizontal and then kind of see what it looks like if I merge it in there. And that looks okay, even though it does have a little bit of a gap in there. I'll be able to fill that in. And I want to do that between those two layers to make it look right. So let's go back to the palette and see if there's a group of trees that look the way that I would want this to look. Paste that over on that side, and one more. Oh, there. And then it kind of looks like it blends in pretty good in there. Now I'm gonna go ahead and bring these down into one layer, back into the trees layer, and grab this group again, and now we're gonna try to cover up some of these tree trunks that were already on there. I have to go all the way back to the beginning over here on the left to cover those up where I accidentally overwrote. The ones that I already covered up, alright. Alright, now I was trying to round this side off, so that should work pretty well for that. Now I need to fix the bottom up some. Alright, turn the background on and see what that looks like. And oh, I should have turned the background earlier than that. I accidentally covered some of that the background up. So okay, so now I just clean up some of these edges and make it and give it a little bit of variation through here. And I like this section for my bottom right corners, so kind of use that. Make sure to turn on that layer again. Merge all these back down so I can minimize the number of layers I'm dealing with at any time. Copied the wrong layer again, apparently. Okay, there we go. And we use this to kind of cover up these corners. And again, I'm not perfect at this. I'm just doing what I've kind of figured out works the best for me without spending unreasonable amounts of time dealing with this stuff. And that looks pretty good. It's pretty solid. Um, and actually, now that I kind of see the layout of these trees, um, actually, now that I'm looking at the layout of all this stuff, I think I like I think I want to modify the roads a little bit here. Um, I could also add some grass a little bit in the section between those towns that could be like plains or something like that. But so there are some things like you have some tree trunks that are there that I messed up, and you can tell them if you're paying attention, and you can fix some of that stuff. But um, and then you can use some other stuff to you can use some of the other different styles to throw this off and to break up the patterns a little bit. But all you're trying to do is again is provide to the players an idea of what this is and not distract them from the game by with something being glaringly obviously bad. All right, so let's go ahead and rework maybe some of these roads a little bit. So um, I've I've realized that maybe they could follow these trees instead of going up there. So there might be a second route where they follow this tree line here um, when they're traveling over between these two areas. And then let's go ahead and fix that there. And it would be a shorter route. And then I would actually normally adjust the fortress to that town road to merge with that road a little bit earlier, um, because it would make sense that they would take the shortest route after a while. But that is this is basically the work on where the part where that shows how I would normally generate a map like this and then I would start coming up with stories for some of these towns. So like we have the Bastion of Protection of the um, and then down in the southeast over here, there might be a lighthouse that protects people from some rocks. And then this city probably gets trade out of the west from the water, and it probably has a bustling port. And then I think about the first place that I want to start my characters. Oh, actually, I want to come up with the names for each of these places. So I'll put the names on the points of interest layer. And for now, I'm just going to go over here and use this name generator again and look at place names. Fantasy names. Um, City and town names. That's what I'm looking for. All right, and then fantasy town names. All right, and then whenever we generate this list here, I just kind of look at these things like Lightstorm, like that's a cool name, or I'm actually gonna merge Eldergrasp and Baygate, and I'm gonna make it Eldergate, and that's gonna be the name of this bastion, this fortress. It's gonna be Eldergate, and uh, maybe it's got some lore that I know that this like one of the oldest points of civilization where, or maybe this is a dwarven stronghold that was taken over by humans now, or um, the dwarves coming out of the mountains maybe started this, and then the humans have taken it over, and now the dwarves and humans work together to protect the land, or because again, we always ask why. Why did the town get this name? And then, all right, so let's go back. Um, let's get another name for Grey Run. Okay. Um, let's use that one. I like that name for kind of this town. And I can kind of say that maybe this town has some um, this might have some clay around this area, and uh, the town grew up because this was the midpoint in the travel between these places and Eldergate, and as people entered the uh, so the town kind of oh, I'm sorry, all the people that came through here got covered with that clayish mud, and and then as they and the route became called Grey Run, and then the town that built up just held on to that name. All right, so Deer Shield might be a good name for one of these. Maybe it's an elven town or something like that, or it's near the woods and the elves are known to protect the animals or something like that. Um, all right, Whitehold. That's a good name for my city. All right. That would be kind of maybe this city is known to be uh, maybe there's a marble mine somewhere here, and maybe the castle from this city was originally built out of a white marble, and it's the primary material that they used to build the castle here, and it was like how the town was built up around that castle, and that's how they got their name. And I'll let you guys use your imagination for what these last two towns might be called. But now we've got a map, now we've got names, and we've got points of interest. Um, and this is Trojas, our town of Marvel, or our continent of Marvels, whatever, you know. But this is how I generate my base maps for my continents. And now we're going to work on generating some cities. So one of the tools that I use uh, for my tools, and I actually like the roll for fantasy and the roll for names generator, but for the overall map, but for my actual cities and my town layouts, I actually like this this link that I got up for Wadabu, which is the fantasy city generator. And what it basically does is it generates these cities randomly, and using an algorithm, and it'll generate a map. It has some options and for some styling and layout options, and you can turn on or off labels for it. The labels kind of show the different parts of town. Um, you can turn on and off like all the different elements of this. And you generate these different styled maps, and you just press the generate button and it'll generate the map. So what I'll do is I'll take my map I've created and try to look at some of the land, the properties of the land around it, um, and uh, so let's work on Whitehold first. It's the large city down here, and and it's on a southwestern coast, so I need to find a coastal town. So I have the so if you didn't have labels on this, you could rotate this map for your purposes. I don't want to deal with that. I like having the labels on these, so I just keep randomly generating until I find one that matches what I'm looking for. I'm probably not going to find one perfect, but I'll find one kind of close. And so this one looks okay. It has more roads than I really want, but it is on the coast. And this one's actually built to be an inlet from the city, but there's this warp function that allows you to move some stuff. So if you're in the inner circle, or if the node is in the inner circle, it will move it as much as you move the mouse. If it's in the outer circle, it'll drag it in a proportion to how much it's supposed to move. So as I grab these, you'll see that if I grab these in the outer circle, they won't move as far as the mouse, but if they're in the inner circle, they will. They'll move the entire distance of the mouse movement. So let's go ahead and drag this down, and I'm just going to widen this up to try to give this more of a look of what our actual thing is. And then I don't like that straightness of that, so I'm just dragging that. I just dragged that uh, the jagged portion of that a little bit closer to town. And I messed up this little edge there, but we can fix that. All right, and then we're just gonna expand this stuff out, and um, now I'm just trying to make the coast a little bit wider to match what it actually looks like. And then as long as I get it outside of the range of the map, I can cut off the bottom of. Whenever I get done with this, I'm gonna visually edit the map a little bit, and I can just cut off that little bottom section that doesn't match. Um, there will be issues if you try to use the tool too much for this stuff. But oh, actually, I did not know that you could actually expand or reduce the size of this. So I'm gonna play with this a little bit. I'm gonna move all of these at once up that way. That's actually pretty cool. I didn't know I could do that. Apparently, the tool sizing doesn't lock the scrolling for the page, so as you're resizing the tool, the page will go up and down. Apparently, so that's something they could work on probably, but we're not gonna worry too much. So, all right, I've reduced the size of the tool back down. And now I'm just going to spread this out a little bit, and I'm not going to use the section out there because it's pretty much just dead space. I'm going to crop my image to what it is, but you can move the walls out, you can adjust the sections of town so that if you want to give one part of it a little more space or something like that. And I'm just spreading out these sections of town a little bit. And then you can move some roads around if you want. There's a lot of things that you can do with this little warp tool with this. And I'm just going to bring these sections in a little bit. I don't want them quite that extending quite that far. Let's go ahead. Yeah, that looks a little bit better there. So now we're going to say that this is what I want, and we're going to apply the changes, and you can export this in PNG or SVG. Tend to use uh, I tend to use PNG so that I can use my image editor to make some changes to it. And I don't have any real need for the SVG function, but if I wanted to make some changes to this town, if I could do something like if I want to get rid of my temples, um, this is the same town, but just with the temple function turned off. I did lose the warping changes that I did, but you can kind of see that like if I make one of these changes, it actually is using the same algorithm with the same input. It's just modifying some parts of it. So I'm just gonna do something crazy with it so that we can. Okay, one of the things you can see is the labels in this part of the town. The labels over cover each other a little bit. Um, I'm, and uh, and I have not found a way to remove specific labels or move around specific labels without adjusting the town too much, or make things that didn't make don't make change things that don't make sense to me, like having two craftsman corners towards the middle of town. I actually don't know what a patriciate is, but you have these different sections like the merchant, the craftsman, the market. So to fix the overlay of the excessive number of labels here, we're going to do a little bit of work. First, I'm going to warp this and spread these out just a little bit, just so I can separate them a little bit. All right. And I think that'll work. And I can replace some of these things with some of these others. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and apply these changes. And when I export these, I always try to export like it is currently, and then I go to Style and turn off the labels, and export it again. Um, what what that allows me to do is, um, if I want to modify the labels, I can just copy this town over itself, and it lets me do some magic with the editing tool to readjust the way that these labels work out. So let's go ahead and start a new file here, or actually import these files in. I, I would normally now I've imported both versions of it, so um, now they should completely match up with each other. So if I switch them back and forth, you'll see that none of the none of the styling or it looks the same. So if in this case I want to like keep this merchant here, okay, or I want to get rid of this merchant actually probably. All right. So oh, if I were gonna keep this merchant here, since I don't see any ones that kind of would bother that, um, there is a T here on market which I could use to fill in the merchant. So I'm gonna use I use the magic wand to select the T there, and actually I don't actually like that. I'm gonna cut it out because I want some of this background in a similar way to what it would look if it was up there. And I'm just gonna paste it right over the top of that one. Try to get it pretty aligned to what was already there. And now I'm going to take this whole word here. Uh, let's try again. Oh yeah, I can just do I don't have to worry about the buildings. So the rest of it I can just go all the way around. do a cut or copy, and then switch it over to a new layer and paste it. And I turn on the background, and you see that I've brought the merchant section up to the top. Now the right side doesn't look perfect, so I'm just gonna do a lasso select here over that section of that layer. I'm just gonna pick this little side section, and then I'm gonna do a blur, and I'm going to use the fragment blur, and just to blur that little section. I don't want to blur it a whole lot. I just want to blur it. I'm gonna use a lot of fragmentation, but a low distance. Oh, I accidentally grabbed the T. I don't want to grab any of the T. I just want to grab some of this background color, because that is kind of what is done with the rest of it. And there we go. So you can clean it up a little bit nicer than that. I'm just using that because I want to just kind of match up with the rest. It doesn't have to be perfect for the purposes of this video. Um, and before I said I wanted I wanted to keep the market, but I'm actually just going to use this one down here, um, and the other one's just kind of in this open space, so I don't have to worry. As long as I don't get any of the buildings around this, I should be okay. Um, and this one I can just paste in up here. Copy it back from. I think I might have copied the wrong layer there. There we go. And then I'm just gonna kind of paste it up here. And it doesn't perfectly fit in the space, so I'm gonna get it kind of close. Um, I'm actually not gonna do that. Let's go and grab this part of the market first. So let's lasso just this right side of this. I don't actually need the full word, I just need the right end of it. Because I want it to merge well with these buildings. And then we'll paste it in. And then that looks good. And then we're going to do the left section of this. And grabbing actually parts of other letters or other sections of lines that you can use as a reference makes placing these a little bit easier. So you can see that I just need to match up this K here and make it look like the original K. And that looks pretty good. And then we can zoom out and we have a market. Just blur out this little left section a little bit. Like we did before. And for the settings, I actually want to make the distance even smaller because the last one didn't quite fit exactly what I was wanting, and adjust the fragment count a little bit, make it a little bit closer to what the other ones look like. Again, it's still not perfect, but it is working. That's basically how I would do it, and then I would go ahead and do that for other sections of town. Um, and then uh, and then the outer area I don't have. Okay, so I would do that for the sections on the inside of town, but for the outer area I don't really have that much of an issue with. So I'm just gonna select this section of town that I want to keep the way that it is. And actually, I can go. What I need to go zoom out a little bit further. All right. So I'm wanting to replace all of this and keep that how it is on the map. I actually did that the wrong way. Doing it the other way would be a little bit easier. It is pretty close to what I want to do, but all I really want to do is select the section that I want to get rid of. So let's go ahead and just select that section. And then I'm going to select the background. And then I'm just going to delete this section. Oh, I'm sorry. The original. We, we delete that from the background too. And then whenever we look at it with the sections turned on, once you're happy with it, you can kind of uh, sorry, I got distracted there. So now that we've got that the background set right. You can kind of I'm keeping the original background in case I ever want to mess with it. But I'm going to crop this down to the side that I want so I can get rid of some of these things that were messed up. And then on my map, this town only has one road, so I could get rid of some of these other external areas and play around with that stuff. So, like, removing some of these roads could be complicated, um, but if I was going to do that, I would go ahead and leave the gate in, and I would just go ahead and just remove that. So I'll show you how I do that. So all I do is cut out. I'm just going to do a rough cut here. Okay, I just cut out this section of the road first from the main the background that I'm going to the layer I'm going to use, and then zoom in closer, and then remove again another rough cut, a little less rough cut, and then get rid of that, and then and again this map also has that background color that is perfectly consistent. So as long as I delete everything as I anything that I don't want, in this case all the dark sections of these, and then I'm going to actually use some of this lower section of this wall and copy it to the section that I was cutting out parts of to just try to make it match, make sure that it's going to be matching what I was actually trying to do. So that'll work for now. All right, let's see what that looks like. Um, and then let's go ahead and yeah, I think that if I just take that, I might be able to delete that, and I think I can copy this section or this little icon onto that corner there, and then I just pick this background color from anywhere and paste it and fill it in, and there it is. There is actually another road up here too, so let's go ahead and take care of this. I actually don't like these buildings, so we're getting rid of that. And then again, rough cuts. Initially rough cuts, and then we'll clean it up after that. Alright, then I use my magic selector tool to get these buildings. And delete those. And I don't think I can get these to a point that it'll actually make it easier on me, so I'll just delete the middle out of this, and then I'll just use the I actually like using the rectangle tool to remove these, um, because it's easier to work with. And then just as long as it looks like it's got a consistent wall, and then delete this section. Alright, come in here and then get rid of these wall sections. Alright, there's that, and then that. And that looks pretty good. Alright, fill that in. And yeah, I'm good with that. And there you go. Could merge these roads together, and or change the way these walls lay out. You can do a lot of these things with just the simple tools that, as I've shown you, just cut and paste. But let's go ahead and save this for now, and we'll call that um, that's uh, white hold. Yeah. Now we've got our first city built. And we've got our cities, and we've got our towns layout, and we've got our first city map. And now we're going to go into Roll20 and show you how I actually set up my game using this system.